Hey everyone, it's Travis here, just letting y'all know this is part 2 of the video podcast. Audio got a little fuzzy. I had the microphone moved away from my mouth, so I re-edited it. It's still not too crisp, but just letting you know. Alright, thanks. Enjoy. Yeah, and the other thing we got up here is, hey, what if Battlefield 2042 had they have like a split crossplay, but I think it's cool that they will have crossplay between generations. I don't know if it's said that they have cross save, because I would want cross save for like if I started out on a Series S and then maybe I bought a PlayStation 5 and got it there as well. But they are dividing it up by PS5, Series, Xbox Series consoles, PC, then they're cutting it off and they have PS4 and Xbox playing together, which I think that's like the first time Battlefield has done it. I guess they've seen it do well with Apex, so they're kind of pushing that forward.
Yeah, it's like trying to get like some sort of customizable like crossplay support, because you can also like opt out of playing against other consoles and PCs, right? But it is interesting that they like came to this decision to like separate the generations. That was
Yeah,
probably for the best.
yeah. A little probably because they probably play differently. They probably have like different resolutions, maybe like.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
besides it being like one has, the older stuff has 64 players and the newer stuff has 128. Okay, so cross progression is in the works. That's cool. I actually have thought about picking up or trying to get a version of the Xbox One Battlefield when this comes out to load, because I like 64 player maps a lot, because that's what Battlefield 5 had, and I'd like to be able to hop between both for a little bit, maybe a little variety, maybe if I want a smaller match. But this is shaping up to be really cool release. They're hitting a bunch of check marks. I'm gonna guess they're probably gonna have free DLC as well, which is what Battlefield 5 started in Battlefront 2, where they didn't want to have close players off in that crossplay, cross save, AI bots. Hoping that their multiplayer is more focused without a campaign, and we'll see how it goes through later. I'm curious. They have those hero characters which are set up. I'm curious how those guys are going to play, because they're pre-set up characters that have unique like abilities that don't really show up in like your regular creative class stuff.
Yeah. And like the other thing that this like is like blah. The other thing that this update does touch on is that DICE has said that they will be filling out lobbies with AI, like bots, as needed, which is interesting. Like as we talk about them focusing on multiplayer, he's like bots in multiplayer, they went away, they disappeared after
Yeah,
after a
and
time.
like I think that could be cool in a sense. You have this big battlefield, and you'll have some bots running around in these lobbies that aren't filled, and then you'll have the players, so you can kind of get some kills off of both. And then it's still waiting for like the lobby to be filled up. There's gonna be a lot of lobbies if they do complete crossplay
Yeah.
on those top level consoles. You have all these lobbies that are not split up by version, so they're all there's gonna be some stuff. I wonder. They might have. I feel like the first week is gonna be a little hectic, a little busy on their servers, but I'm curious how it'll play out. And there was some other thing I was thinking about. I don't know. It could be cool. I'm ready. Battlefield.
No, it's interesting. Like I think like the sort of the generational split is probably for the best. I think putting bots in, like having that kind of functionality is good, just to ensure that it's not like you're not gonna hit a point where you have one team with a lot more players, just wiping the floor with a smaller team. I don't know if that's even a capability like within like Battlefield's multiplayer,
Oh
but
yeah, that
that
happens. It
happen. Yeah,
sucks. It sucks. It happens in 5. Yeah.
yeah. Like I imagine it's not great in any game that happens in.
No, because in 5 you had like it's 32 versus 32, and sometimes like 8 people would drop out of a losing team,
Oh
and you're
Christ.
getting steamrolled. It would help to have these AI bots who are going to take objectives. They're probably a little dumber, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
The other thing I remembered is that they will just have bot lobbies, which I love the idea of having an all bot lobby, because it reminds me of like playing just the campaign of Star Wars Battlefront 2, where I'm just running around murdering everything. I'm the Rambo of this game, and I'm gonna control this battlefield. It's fun. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
October can't come 3 months. I'm curious. I'm also curious about the free to play stuff that they're doing, because they're going to do some free to play thing. We'll see when it comes out.
Yeah, it's what I'm sure it's going to be like one huge mode and maybe like some other stuff, but I imagine you'll have to pay for like the majority of multiplayer as well as their like solo and co-op modes.
Yeah, and they've talked about another mode besides like the conquest that's a little more something. It sounded like something between a battle royale and a regular conquest match, where you might be able to respawn, or you might have like smaller base stuff.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that mode exactly, but they've had a couple news articles talking about it. What do I have up next on here? We talked about Warframe. This oh yeah, the Ubisoft stuff is that Ubisoft is being sued in a French court for institutional harassment. Which, hey, I'm glad someone got lawyered up and got this together. It sucks that it had to happen, but it has to happen. If
Yeah.
you want to talk more about it, I think I haven't really gone over the article too much.
Yeah, so it's, it is a case being brought up against Ubisoft in French court by a union named Solidaires Informatique. I'm sure I've absolutely butchered the hell out of that name, and also two former employees of Ubisoft. Um, that allege that Ubisoft set up and maintained and reinforced a system where sexual harassment was tolerated. It names several Ubisoft executives as well as Yves Guillemot, not because like Yves did anything specifically, but because he did nothing to stop this from happening, right? And they view him as like as responsible for this as anyone else because he's the CEO of that company. Um, let's see. And this is mostly targeting the fact, like this complaint is mostly about the fact that the company has not done much of anything, right? Since a massive wave of allegations came out like last year about how workers were treated by executives and managerial staff, and just like the general like environment created at those studios. And and like talking about this, I think we talked about this like last week, right? How Ubisoft like stockholders wanted to move the conversation away from like these allegations in a real way, in like a very desperate way, so they can continue selling games. And this sort of suit is mostly like, no, we need to talk about this. We need to actually do something to improve the working situation here at the studio, and we can't just move past it, which is what like a lot of executives have wanted to do for a while.
Yeah, and I'm glad that this information and these like testimonials are going to get onto some type of like, I don't know if in this is in a French court. I don't know if it's like public record, but I'm glad that it's going to be on record that this is happening, and I'm curious to see what will end up happening after this, and if some of that stuff gets better, or if they keep some people and push them down in other places. It's like when we're talking about the other news articles, we're gonna have to see. This is like an ongoing thing,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that this is like something that's going through, because this is, we talk about Ubisoft a lot. It sucks that it is really extremely shitty that their workplace like would put up with and have like institutionalized sexual harassment, which is like you saw that coming. We heard things about that coming from Riot. And there's a couple other ones where they would like jokingly, like workplace stuff that's like some people find it funny, but it's super shitty. And like it's like this and Crunch are the two things in like gaming that are like at the high point where people kind of have had enough about it on like in certain circles and stuff, and trying to get it talked about more. So I'm glad that this came through. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, like it's good that, that it's not anything that could happen like within our country, but it is good that there are enough like labor laws to like have structures that can support workers as they put complaints forward like this. Um, just so that way, like you cannot because like if this was I feel like if this is mostly an American company, um, there probably wouldn't be complaints like this. They would not be like filing complaints in court against employers like this, or at the very least, not expecting any sort of substantial end result if they did.
Yeah, and I've worked since I was 17, and I've heard stories and I've seen it myself in like smaller like fast food stuff where there are like weird like harassment stuff that comes up, or weird like where you have this clique of workers who that's the way it is, and if you come in with a different opinion on how you should treat people, you're kind of like ostracized, and you want to have an HR that will help figure out what these problems are and listen to people that have problems. And it sounds like most of this stuff has been people come with it to a complaint and then it's not solved, and maybe something else happens that
Yeah.
is worse for the people who comes up and says I have a problem.
Well, yeah, because it's like we talk about like you were just talking about like being ostracized by like a clique of workers who want things to go a certain way. Imagine if that clique is the management and HR, like institutionally, is just about just about making sure management's okay more than it's about making sure people like workers are.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to harp on this too much about like what I've seen in like the past, but like there were like these going from like 50s to 60s, 70s, like 80s, like corporate culture of like at a time those were mostly like male based, and you have introduced like more varieties of like people of different genders, people of different nationalities and stuff that get away from like the norm of it. And there are people who are older in those companies that are just don't want to keep up or change with something that's right, I think. Like I don't know, you think of like like it's just a TV show, but Mad Men has that like I wouldn't call it bro culture because that hasn't shown up yet from like the 50s, but it's very it's the boys. This is the boys' workplace and stuff.
Well, I mean, yeah, like like we can use like the fiction of Mad Men. You can also use like the fact that like once like at the end of World War II, like the way that women were completely pushed out of like the jobs they held during the war, right, to make room for men, right? Like it's turns out discrimination has been institutionalized in a lot of areas in in capitalistic culture. It's wild.
And even in culture before that, like it's such a like women getting the right to vote, and then more powers for like nationalities to vote, and like less discrimination, and it goes back to like the founding of America, and then where they came from before that, before that, before that. It's like weird. It's like a carryover from other places that are just like people don't like change, but like you have to advance as a culture in a certain way. But yeah, so I agree with you. Yeah, it's yes, institutionalized. Like what would you call that? Like I'm trying to think of the term. Like
Just,
pro like male workplace, or
I mean,
pro like
discrimination.
discrimination.
Work like
Yeah,
it's workplace
institutionalized
harassment.
discrimination.
Yeah, it's institutionalized harassment and discrimination. Like, I mean, not and this is and we've completely gone off the rails. We're like specifically talking about Ubisoft in this case. But like this is something that you see everywhere in regards to like the complaints made towards like Quantic Dream a couple of years ago, in how terrible its studio is to be at, and other
Yeah,
places.
that as well. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who runs the studio has always come out weird.
David Cage.
Yeah, David Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Side note, I guess Rainbow Six Extraction got delayed to 2022, as well as Riders Republic.
Also coming out of Ubisoft.
Also coming out. It sucks because I like the type of stuff they put out, but it sucks that their management is weird. But people make they shake up some stuff, and like
Yeah.
what kind of games they put out.
Yeah,
But
well, I was just thinking like the transition from like very serious like personnel like news to like, oh, like their games have also been delayed. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems that what was it?
Is
Like Reddit.
Extraction got pushed to January 2022, and then Writers Republic got pushed 8 weeks from September 2nd to October 20th. It looks like.
Yeah, the 8 weeks is an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure
Yeah.
what necessarily what work you can do in that short amount of time. But I mean, if they want to
Yeah.
push it back, they can. Like I would hope they
I'm
would.
I'm guessing it's like a little bit of bug work, a little bit of patchwork, maybe to what was going to be a day one patch will now be a patch already set up by the time it releases. Is those kind of things. Um, you know, hey, patches happen.
Yeah.
Netflix, a bunch of Netflix news was coming out as well. The first one is the data mining that kind of came out of like app data where there could be a Netflix PlayStation partnership, which that is a very interesting counter move by PlayStation that if it comes to fruition could be a really big deal. Because Netflix is like the one of the biggest streaming services, and this is could be for like Netflix having games that you pay for and stream to your console, and if it's a PlayStation partnership, which PlayStation is the big one of the three, and as a whatchamacallit, a counter to like Game Pass, maybe you see some PlayStation games exclusives coming to Netflix to your PlayStation. Maybe you stream them through your TV. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah. Even if this isn't like just putting like PlayStation games on Netflix, right? Like Netflix and Sony like in partnering, it makes a lot of sense when you just consider that a lot of the in-house IP PlayStation works with lends itself well to, or like it has constantly been like aping the aesthetic and like visual like language of movies, right? And so this could very well, if nothing else, this could be like Netflix partnering with, or PlayStation partnering with Netflix because like they want to continue producing like their own shows, right? But want to do this with like a company that knows how to do this kind of thing. Because I don't know if you remember Powers.
Oh yeah,
That was an
it was
absolute wreck.
yeah. I watched a couple episodes of that. Hey, how about the Tester when that came? That you could download that for free. The Tester
I,
season 3.
we don't need to talk about the tester, but
No, we
like,
don't need to.
but if it is like putting games like on like a service to create some sort of Game Pass like counter, that is also that's also a choice and a relatively interesting one at that. I don't know, like it could be wild. If just like having the gaming section on Netflix, whatever that looks like, and then just having most of the PlayStation catalog on that.
Yeah, and a couple of things I think about this is maybe there's like a tiered setup where you have base Netflix that's just movies. Maybe you have like an extra $5 to throw on some older games. Maybe there's something above that to get the day one releases, which might not happen because they want the pre-orders and day one like $60, $70 buy now. It's $70.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then, but to the flip side of that, it worries me that PlayStation and Netflix, the two biggest ones, are kind of have this like monopoly that they could have set up where it's a really big deal. That's a really big buying point for like a PlayStation or even like I don't know if this goes through and it's good. You could see this coming. You could see like a little PlayStation streaming box, kind of like the PlayStation TV, where you just get on your Netflix app and you stream some PlayStation games. Like, and then PlayStation has the catalog too. Like they have all these third-person action adventure shooter stuff that are all. I think they're pretty accessible. You know.
oh, yeah, they definitely lend themselves well to like the Netflix audience of people who are scrolling through something and like find a relatively like easy, like very appealing like PlayStation title that they can just stream for like with their next Netflix subscription and like mess around with, like it's a fine partnership, and I'm interested in seeing like what the end result of this is going to be.
Yeah. The only hope is I don't want this. I want this and Xbox Game Pass to both live in their own harmony and both be doing well. So I hope that happens. I just don't want there to be like, oh, we play Game Pass is doing really well. I guess we're gonna go with Netflix and just cut the head off of Xbox right there because we got the better streaming service. But like that depends on like what stuff comes to Game Pass, and then there's Game Pass PC, which just does relatively well, and they got Halo coming up, Psychonauts, and they have all these. They got all these first party stuff. They're both. It's like an arms race right now. Fucking like Microsoft picked up Bethesda for what was it, $4 billion. So
I think more.
Microsoft is no indie studio trying to get out this niche streaming service. They're big too. So
Yeah, and I don't know if like the Game Pass to this, like whatever this could end up being, is necessarily the right comparison, because like again, this is like Game Pass is not streaming, right? Like Game Pass is you download a game, as long as you have an active membership, it will recognize it on your profile and you can play the game. Like if this becomes like streaming more akin to something like a Stadia, um, I think Game Pass will be fine.
yeah, I also definitely see this as being like a service you sign up for where you could possibly download these games as well. I don't count that out because PlayStation Now lets you download some of the PS4 stuff instead of streaming it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see what ends up happening. This is all rumor at the moment.
It picks
The
up the door.
possibilities are just too good for me not to think about, I guess. What's the other Netflix thing on here? Is that the Monster Hunter anime, which could be into that. I looked at this trailer and I thought it was the boy from God of War, but it's actually another guy. I'm gonna keep going. Austin's taking care of his pig real fast. And let's see, Monster Hunter Legends of the Guild. Oh yeah, that's a Monster Hunter anime. I'm not getting audio from this, but I'm watching a little. It looks like World. It looks like a kid's show. There's monsters. There's some hunting. They got the kid's a teenager and he's hunting. Let's see. Oh, we got a Velocidrome, I think, or a Velociprey. That's the Velociraptor animal dinosaur that comes after you. There's the Forge. They're making some weapons. This kid's got like one of those, like the sides are cut off and he's got a faux hawk. Yeah. Monster Hunter anime. Oh, yeah. It's like Netflix has. There was a discussion somewhere that kind of made me realize what Netflix was kind of doing is they're ramping up their anime, and they're ramping up their like another set of stuff. Quick question. We're not gonna interrupt the pod. Did you hit pause or did you mute your mic, Austin?
Oh, I think I just muted the mic. This has been going, huh?
That's better. No, that's good. Perfect.
Okay.
That's perfect.
All right.
It's because we're still rolling. I was talking about Monster Hunter, and that Netflix is picking up. They're doing more anime and they're doing more like animated TV shows. And there's like another thing that they were like pairing with properties. Like we kind of rolled this into the video game thing. They got Monster Hunter. They got Castlevania. They got Resident Evil. I mean, and they got some Gundam stuff too. Like the first three of those are video game properties, man. The Witcher, you know. I don't know. What if you watch the Monster Hunter anime and then you go like play Monster Hunter World because you can just download it from Netflix? I don't know.
I mean, we're definitely like at least probably like 3 years away from seeing like if this data mine is even like accurate, from seeing like what this could possibly be. I mean, and that could definitely happen. Like, The Witcher is. I feel like they really want to make with The Witcher like the sort of a case, like the standard like sort of case for this kind of thing, as opposed to like this strange anomaly, right? Where your video game tie-in does really well, and then people go and find out how they can how they can be experience more of this, and they end up going to buy the games.
Yeah, like it was really cool to see that spike of Steam sales after the Witcher show came out for like Witcher 3, and this Monster Hunter anime. It's cool for a couple reasons. Like it's anime. It's a CG anime, I guess.
Yeah,
Which
it's a
can be a little
Capcom.
different.
It's a Capcom CG project.
Oh yes, I forgot about the Capcom CG project. Which this is probably coming out in Japan as a different thing. and Netflix bought the rights to it in the U.S., which you saw happen with I think Resident Evil. And you saw that with Gundam. Like Gundam, that Gundam movie came out a year ago, the Hathaway movie,
Yeah.
and then Netflix just paid to have the U.S. distribution rights. I would have to look at this to see if it's like a. Sometimes Netflix pays for this stuff. Sometimes they pay for the rights, but it's cool. Ace Cadet is the main character, I guess.
Yeah, it was apparently like a big deal with like Monster Hunter.
I I only slightly recognize this kid.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you.
all I know
I played Foreign World like 100 hours and I couldn't tell you. But that's I don't pay attention to that stuff sometimes.
yeah, like I only know this character is like is played by seemingly played by the voice actor who does Zuko in The Last Airbender, right? Like that's the only thing I know about this character. Anyway, I don't know anything about Monster Hunter. I don't know what any of this nonsense is. I don't think this like again like Capcom's 3D like CG animation has always looked really weird to me, and this is no exception.
Oh, that totally is Zuko from Airbender. I was watching a movie with him. He's in Hook, that Robin Williams um, live action Peter Pan movie. He's like one of the kids in Hook, too. But
Okay.
I just thought of it because like I like that actor. I think his name is Dev Patel. But yeah, it looks like a Monster Hunter anime. You got there's certain things you hit. You hit them making a weapon. You hit them being attacked by a monster. You show a small monster, but you show a bigger monster to show like some stuff's gonna happen. And then what else is in here? There's probably some palicos in here somewhere. Yeah, we got a palico. Got it. Checked off.
Sorry, I just had
We
to
got
Google.
they shot the flare. I recognize that.
I had to Google Dante Bosco because you said he was in Hook, so I had to just double check. Yeah, he's the kid who gets murdered in Hook.
Yes, he
Uh,
is. Or is Dev Patel a
Wild.
different kid in there?
Well,
Yeah, Dante. No, Dev Patel's someone else in that.
Dev Patel is the
Dante
guy who
Bosco's
did
the Zuko
yeah
voice. Yeah.
did Zuko in the M Night Shyamalan movie.
Gotcha. I'm trying to see who's Dev. Oh, maybe Zuko came up and Dev Patel was the live action actor. Yeah, that's why that showed up.
Yeah, like he's someone who played Zuko, but like again in that movie that no one liked.
Yeah, because I looked up Zuko and I clicked Dev Patel instead of Dante Bosco. I clicked the wrong one. But yes, Dante Bosco from Hook, not Dev Patel. Different person. Both played the same character, and one a better version, one not a good version. Um, let's see. Yeah, it's in the Monster Hunter stuff. So there it is. I don't know. I played a lot of Monster Hunter. I could probably thumb through a couple episodes, see if it ends up being good. I still need to watch that Resident Evil
Yeah,
I think it's a series, or is it one movie?
I think it's like a 4-part thing.
I watched a couple of those older CG movies. They're not bad. Like Degeneration, they're schlocky and there's some fun action.
Yeah, like
They're better
fun
than the
enough.
live action movies to a certain way.
Like the new one, like the last one that came out was like I think like Outbreak or something, and that just basically turned Leon Kennedy into John Wick, which was just fun. Watching Leon do some gun fu nonsense against zombies, right? Like not even other people who are capable of fighting back, just zombies is fun.
Yeah, I like choreography where you're sliding onto the floor and then shooting. Like that was in one of the Degeneration things. Oh, there's a bow gunner in here. Someone's shooting some guns. It's two monsters are fighting. If the monster animation is cool and the fights are like long enough, I'll kind of be into it. Maybe they'll fight one monster an episode. We'll see what's going on. That sounds like a format you could do. Netflix also snagged former EA Oculus exec to lead its video game efforts, because Netflix is also getting into making their own like video game content. Like we saw it with like they did the Stranger Things, like it was kind of a smaller game where it was like a pixel art game.
Yeah, there's supposed to be like another Stranger Things game that Telltale made, but then that studio sank.
Yeah, and then you have
Completely.
like their first foray into the game was like the Bandersnatch Black Mirror thing, and I apparently they have like, some Carmen San Diego interactive thing on
Yeah,
Netflix.
they did like an interactive
Huh,
special with their Carmen San Diego series.
I could try that.
I know they also hosted like there's a Minecraft story mode version of like Telltale's Minecraft game on Netflix.
Oh, I might watch that. I heard it was kind of cheeky in a fun way. We'll see. Might
Yeah,
not be.
I think they needed to fin like I think that was like the last thing Telltale put out because they were like contractually obligated to finish it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool. I brought up some MPD numbers as well because I like to look at them sometimes. This is by Jeff Grubb on VentureBeat. We'll post these sometimes. Let's see what's number one. I'm just gonna run through one through like five or anything interesting. It's like Rift Apart is number one, and then we kind of have some mainstayers. That is like Call of Duty Black Ops is number two, which has been out for a while, and MLB The Show. Mario Kart 8 is still like selling really well, and Minecraft is on there. And then we have like newer stuff, which is like Mario Golf Super Rush is 3 on the list. Scarlet Nexus is 5, and then like Resident Evil Village was 6 this month, and I guess last month was 1. I think that's when it came out. And you have a couple more like Animal Crossing and Modern Warfare and Smash Brothers. These are all like physical. Like there's no digital sales or Xbox digital sales on here. But I think I always liked like did you ever get Game Informer and in the back they had like the MPD numbers you could look at and stuff.
I've I never had Game Informer outside of like what was in the library, and like with the time I got to actually look at Game Informer magazines, I would get bored by the time it got to NDP stuff.
Yeah, I just remember I think we had them because they gave you the GameStop discount, and then I just would start. I'd thumb through it a couple times a month and get into certain parts. Like there's certain like I'll read the reviews and the stuff in the back, but I never read the news or the previews too much. And the covers are cool. Gotta love those covers. Like old Game Informer and older Game Informer, which is like I would say I read Game Informer a lot from like 2000 to 2010, and then I was getting it for a while when they changed the cover art to be
Yeah.
like a full thing. And now Game Informer's like some stuff. They're losing money because GameStop's losing money, and they're not. That's just weird. Whatever. Don't want to worry. Don't want to even think about Game Informer right now.
I mean, it's a fine publication still. Like the people that they have working there are like good at what they do. I think like they had like a round of layoffs that hit in like 2019 that really sucked. And then like after that, you had a number of people leave to go start. I believe it's MinMax is a
Yeah, Ben
podcasting network.
Hansen, right?
Yeah, Ben Hansen, Leo Vader,
Yeah,
um, like a number of
like
people left
like
to go do
Dan
that.
Reichert came from Game Informer, and we had like someone Tenturi went to Capcom. I think it's another one of like the people who had been there for a while, going off doing something else.
Yeah, like I think their shake up like they're still doing good work post like layoffs and sort of um shake up like within like the company's ranks.
Yeah, and I would say I there was a time when I really liked Game Informer's website. They had like a constant setup of when the news would come out, and they really wouldn't have other stuff besides gaming news, which you kind of see a lot with other stuff. And they had, I thought their video content and some of their podcasts were interesting in the way they, like they would sometimes split up podcasts to give you like a snippet of some interesting stuff for 20 minutes. I haven't been on there in a while, but I would go to Game Informer's website for certain things, and they have a really good back catalog of like the older reviews still, which is like IGN and GameSpot still does that.
Yeah, I think right now most of their video content is like most of what I'm seeing pop up in my subscription box is like seems to be doing a lot of like from soft full playthroughs. Like it's like they just finished up a super they call it a replay, right? They finished up their super replay of Bloodborne and now they're currently going through Sekiro.
Yeah. Hey, gotta get hype for Elden Ring. Let's see. Stadia's got a new, I guess it's this pay for play revenue model that has developers and analysts concerned. I guess they have it's a revenue share model that
Okay, and
is a go for it.
this is the gamer article that you have open. Yeah, yeah. So this is like a in like an engagement revenue model, where like it measures. Let's see, engagement will be measured by session days. Um, one user using one user playing one Stadia Pro game twice on day one equals one session day. A user that plays a Stadia Pro game once a day, once a day, once on day two equals two session days. So it is like trying to be like incentivize people to bring over and also develop like longer engagement games, like longer RPGs, that kind of thing, and like
Yeah, or like live service stuff,
yeah,
which
live service. That's
which
the word.
will say that Stadia Pro is like the subscription service, kind of like you're paying for to get access to this game. You're not like I know there's like the Steam revenue model where you buy this game and it pays the developer based on how many times it's bought. This is the subscription of people are getting on the game a couple times. I don't know how Xbox does it. I think they've just said when you download the game. But this is interesting. So like revenue will be paid out more to companies for games that are being like played longer, or like like you said, a longer RPG, or like a longer like a live service. But it cuts out like yeah, what if I want to play this cool indie game for like 3 days? Maybe I'll bounce off it because I played half of it. Or what if I want to touch a couple different things? I hope they still get paid for it, but it's like, there's some games I've only played for a day and I bounce off, but they're so cool, and I'm glad it's like a value model that's like put into this. So, but that's also Stadia, which may or may not be doing.
Yeah.
It probably does okay subscription numbers, but it's not like nobody's going out and writing about these, and it seems like they might be kind of losing money. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, like it is like their attempt to like get live service. Like they really just want live service games on here to like, keep people using the Stadia more than anything. Like the specific like angle of this article is that like this is not a great sort of idea for like indie developers. Uh, like this is not incentivize them to get onto that platform anyway. And it's like it's true, it doesn't. And I don't think Stadia, the people working in Google's like Stadia initiative, like really care.
A little farther in the article, this is what someone said this on a podcast, I guess. I think Microsoft does a case by case basis where every game is kind of looked at differently because they are different games. Like it's the what you might call it, like live games probably are looked at differently than like a smaller indie game that someone might beat or just check out, or a bigger game that someone plays a little bit of. But yeah, I think yeah, Stadia's looking for stuff. Like this is another one to worry about, like Steam and Valve, or like Valve, yeah, where they are. Google is very known of dropping stuff it doesn't do very well and not having like the longer tail end of supporting it if it doesn't stay doing well. So I'm curious. I hope people have some statements after this saying how the payments have been, or if this is actually helping them and stuff like that. Because if this does well, you could see more games being put on Stadia.
Yeah.
But if companies aren't getting paid out well enough, then you
Well,
might not.
it's going to help a very specific type of game more than anything. Like it's going to help the people who want to make like padded live service games, right? Which is again like probably what Stadia wants on its platform as of right currently, more than anything else.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what comes up out of it. Is this the yeah? This is the last one on here. It's I guess I was hearing about this a little bit on some other podcasts, but the Judgment is having some problems between Sega and the studio, or it's the company that works with the main actor for Judgment. Um, it's the Johnnies. There's this company called the Johnnies that they're like a media company that work contracts for people, and they have very hard limits on stuff. Like they wouldn't let their actors post like social media pictures, or like people couldn't grab thumbnails of these actors and or bands or associated stuff to put on websites because it's like a copyright infringe. So they don't want Judgment to get on PC, but that's kind of Sega has realized they make pretty good money off of their PC Steam games, so there's some could be some internal fighting to maybe not see a Judgment 3. It's
Yeah,
kind of a bummer.
it's mostly just like they don't want the talent agency does not want um, like the likeness of its actor, Takuya Kimura, on on the internet in that way, especially not like in a high definition model that on PC, where the files can be mined and altered and changed and modded, right? I think is mostly from like what I've heard other people discuss this issue, like speak about. Like it seems to mostly be um, like this is a 3D model of the actor that can be changed on PC using like tools that people have been using to change games forever.
And
And
we see these models shown up in like adult video websites and other video games, and then like characters changed out for other characters and
yeah,
stuff. Because you know it's
it's
PC, all this stuff gets opened at some point because
yeah,
it's easy to get into it.
like either fans will create modding tools to like mess with stuff. We see the same thing with like when I think it was Cyberpunk when that released, right? Like
Like
and
Keanu,
CD
yeah.
Projekt Red be like, hey, please don't mod Keanu Reeves into your into your like not safe for work mods, like don't put nudity on Johnny Silverhand, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which I guess we'll see what comes out of. You know, it's hard because there's a lot of Steam games with. It's hard when you have the actor's likeness. Like that was happening with like Elliot Page a lot and stuff from Beyond Two Souls. So it's a weird slippery slope. Like they got into Beyond Two Souls and pulled out like a rendered model of Elliot Page naked, which like that shit sucks. So it's weird when you have actors' likenesses and they're like, because that helps sell the game, but you also have this other stuff that makes it weird to do that because you're contracting to be a part of a game, but then your likenesses also can go elsewhere in places I don't know, you may not want it to be. It's a weird situation.
Yeah, and like in the Elliot Page like situation isn't itself like quite bizarre because that was like already in the game, right? Like that was not added in. That like where the legal confrontation between Page and Quantic Dream happened is because Page did not consent to their likeness being put into that
Yeah, and I
game. In
think
like
it might have been
their
like a
full
cut
body,
scene
I
that they
should
pulled
say.
out because it was like a shower scene or something that
Yeah,
they pulled out the whole model of, and it wasn't originally showing their whole body or something. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it's just shitty stuff there. It's hard because you get these big name actors, and then because you want it, like you know, from what I was hearing, is the main character of Judgment is a very he's almost a what I would say is like the kind of Justin Timberlake thing where he originally came from a pop band, got really popular, and started doing acting after that, and people were really excited when they like that this character came out as like the main character of Judgment.
yeah.
Takuya Kimura is the actor, yeah, voice actor and like character model, and he does a good job. Like I played some of Judgment in Japanese, and I enjoyed it. I thought like it all there's like a certain style to the character that like Takuya brings to it. So we might end up seeing like if this doesn't get resolved, maybe they'll replace the character, have Judgment 3, or start a new series that's because they've wanted to do Judgment being the more action based stuff, whereas we're kind of looking into making Yakuza more the like
The
RPG stuff,
JRPG, yeah.
like a dragon, which is kind of where they want their split. So we'll see what happens going forward.
It's a very it's just the result of like some very a very backwards approach to the internet in general. And it would be a shame to for this to kind of end the series because like as close as I've ever gotten to messing with a Yakuza game, like it is like a Yakuza type game, I should say, it is like Judgment, right? Like I'm not super interested in seeing most of that main Yakuza series, but Judgment has always kind of struck me as different enough to where I might mess with that someday.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's been a week for some news. Thanks for joining me, Austin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back for some gaming impressions.